www.wdbfradio.com.
wdbfradio.com.
Now, here's Steve the Bookman Eisenstein.
Good morning, book lovers, wherever you are, and welcome to an open mic session of Bucks on the Bookshelf. I'm your host, Steve the Bookman Eisenstein, and you are listening to us live on the WDBF radio network. You can catch the studio video of today's show on YouTube. Later in the program, Captain Hook is going to give us a quick explanation on how to do that. And I'm going to tell you all to take out something to write with and take out something to write on. But I'm going to give you two phone numbers, okay? If you want to reach us live on the show, like right now, you can pick up a phone and dial 888-575-4394. That's 888-575-4394. We'd love to hear from you. Now, if you're listening to this show on replay after we're up on YouTube or any of the replays over this weekend, which would be later this afternoon from 4 to 6, tomorrow from 8 to 10, and 3 to 5 p.m. That's all Eastern time, and Monday 1 to 3 a.m. So if you want to talk to us, but you have not been able to reach us on air, of course, you're listening on replay, you can reach us anytime at 305-868-5515, 305-868-5515. It's a landline, so we would love to hear from you verbally, but no texts. So if you're watching it on YouTube or replay, you can reach us. Little personal update. It's official. And if anybody out there, I mean this sincerely, knows anything about claustrophobia, I think I've been officially deemed claustrophobic, even though I used to go into caves and all this other stuff. My MRIs were not successful for that reason. They told me I was going in for a stand-up, and as soon as I got in the room, I realized it was a tube. And I mean, I always thought the problem I had the last time was because of the noise. I was in it for 12 minutes, but I didn't last 3 minutes in this one, and I didn't even start. How does one suddenly become claustrophobic? I don't know, but if it's in the DSM, I'm going to find out. If anybody knows now, save me some reading time. So anyway, we got to find out where an open MRI is, and then we'll go from there. Hold on here. I lost my...
They got one over here in Tampa.
Yeah, I'm going to fly. I'll bring my helicopter over. You know what the funny thing about it is, though? I found open MRIs. What do I have again, Edie? What is it? I have Medicare, okay? I didn't sell it out for a bunch of groceries. So they told me it's good, it's really good. But the open MRIs are only allowed within somebody's insurance company, whatever the network is. So, anyway, thanks. Steve, why are you here? Captain Hook, should I say, because we're both on the air. Tell the audience a little bit about the YouTube, what they do to go for, where, what.
Well, all you have to do is, if you're on YouTube, you go to YouTube, just type in the search WDBF Radio. We have our own site. There's multiple videos on there from past shows. We have your past shows for the last couple months. And Sports Talk with T, she's on there. Some other things that are on there from Rising Sun Music that we did with John Seda. But that's what you got to do. And usually you can count on it being up there by afternoon on Sunday, but we start working on it right after the show here on Saturday. And so for anybody that wants to go, you can download it, you can watch it. There's a lot of information. In fact, the last couple shows that you've done have been very informative. So for people that didn't pick up on everything during the show, it's a good way to go back and bone up on certain topics that you might have covered.
Wow, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Um, Speaking of topics and trivia questions, I'm going to do an early, thanks, Steve. I'm going to do an early trivia contest question. And in actuality, a funny note about, well, all right, let's do the trivia contest question first, and we'll let you put your thinking caps on. If you to answer the question, the telephone number is 888-575-4394. That's 888-575-4394. The question is, what do Thor and Tarzan have in common? What is it that Thor and Tarzan have in common? Answer the question, we'll give you a nice trivia contest prize. And speaking of trivia contest prizes, I say this kind of jokingly. We all hate book plates. I mean, unless they're an important person's book plate. Let me say it that way. Um, but I should have a book plate made for the prize books that we give out. In the almost 11 years, I think we've given out somewhere between 400 and 500 prize books. So, but we never indicated that they were. Maybe we will from now on. Um, I thought some of the things we might do today, based on what your phone calls might be, would guide us, but so far I'm guideless. So I'm going to kind of start with a couple of basic review projects, especially for the newcomers. One of the most standout reads in applications this week was this one lady who wanted a book mentor. There's another lady whose husband had hunting and carving and other type books. You would be perfect guests on the show. You don't have to be a knowledgeable guest to be on the show. You just have to have good questions about what your basic problems are. And you all have them from what I've seen in the applications. So let's do some basic stuff. In order to list something for sale, you have to be able to describe it. Now, in books, there's a vocabulary that's used for the proper description of how to describe a book. Not only is there a proper vocabulary, but there's also, and most important, a proper format. And if you deviate from that format for any reason, you're doing so at your own peril, no matter how intuitive or creative a novice idea you think you have. It won't work. Serious book dealers who buy and sell books, or clients or institutions that buy books from you, are used to seeing that information about that book delivered in a standard format. And what is the standard format? Well, it starts out with the author's name. Used to be last name first. Obviously, it's not that way anymore. Um, Next, of course, is the title of the book. After that is the city of publication. Now, all this information, generally speaking, can be found on the title page of the book or on the verso or rear side. New word, verso, the rear side of the title page, or rear side of a page is a verso. So, on the title page, you're going to see the author's name, you're going to see the title, and you're going to see, among other things, the city of publication. Now, many times that city of publication, there's multiple cities. I mean, I go London, New York, Paris. Might go Paris, London, New York. Might go New York first. Whatever the first city is, the one to the left of the string which would be the first one, or the top name. So the city of publication. And that's very important, especially when you consider something called rule of flags. Rule of flags is this. If you have a British author, you want the British first edition. You have an American author, you want the American first edition. You have an author from Columbia, you want the first Columbian edition, etc., etc. So you've got the author, you've got the title, you've got the city of publication, and now you know which city to use if multiple cities are listed. Okay, the next thing you want after that is the year of publication. Now, there's a small thesis that comes with this. If you have a more modern book, let's say from the 1940s, 30s, something like that, if on the title page it says 1937, but on the back in the copyright statement it says 1928, you don't have the first edition. Okay. Let's say you had a little different example. It said 1937 on the title page, and it said 1937 in the copyright statement. Unless you have points to deal with, which we'll talk about later, you have the first edition. So you've got the author, the title, the city, the year of publication. Now you got the edition, okay? And that's where most people, when they're new, get very frustrated by it, okay? What edition do you have? Is it a first edition? Is it a second edition? Is it a fifth edition? What edition is it, and how do you know? Well, research is one answer, okay? If it says first edition and you don't have any points to deal with, then you have the first edition. Points are things that will indicate one edition from another. It can be as simple as a spelling mistake made in the first edition that the correction identifies the second edition. So edition can be complicated. Then there's also what we call limited editions, okay? You can have a limited edition book. Now, there's various types of limited editions. You can have what they call a numbered limited edition, which says this is copy number 42 of 137. You can have an unnumbered limited edition where you might have a statement that says 1,000 copies of this book have been published, and usually after that, the plates have been destroyed or something like that. So that's another type of limited edition. And then I'm going to really get complicated here, especially if you're new, but enjoy it. It's fun. You can have a limited edition within a limited edition within a limited edition. So let me break that down. Let's use 100 as the figure. 100 copies of a book were published. And for the sake of discussion, there were 10 beautiful, gorgeous color illustrations in this book. So the limited edition within the limited edition. Copy number 1 through 10 is what they're going to call the deluxe limited edition. It might have one of the copper plates used for the printing of those gorgeous illustrations in that book. So you can have the plate. If they get real fancy, the illustration has original art. So there's 10 pieces of original art, and in each book goes one piece that matches the plate. Now, this copy might also have an extra suite of illustrations, lithographs, to accompany it. It's in a super fine, gorgeous, scrumptious leather binding. It's made on special paper by somebody like Dart Hunter. It's bound by Sutcliffe and Sand, deluxe, okay? So that would be copy 1 through 10 with all those other accoutrements. Copy number 11 through 20, well, obviously, you don't have the copper plates and you don't have the original art, but you can have almost everything else signed by everybody, the lithographs, and so on. And then that's copy number 11 through 20. Copy number 21 through 100, it's just the book, so those things do happen. The first time you find a James Joyce book, and if you're new, I hope you find it early in your career, especially if it's a limited edition. A lot of Joyce's novels were done in limited editions within limited editions, and even the limited editions club one that was done is a limited edition within a limited edition. How's that? That was actually all fun fact. A quick explanation for those who didn't pick up on it. The Limited Editions Club did a very special copy of Ulysses that was illustrated by Matisse, and 100 of the usual 1,500 copies were signed by both, and 1,400 were only signed by Joyce. And now you know. So anyway, let's review all that a little bit. You need the author, you need the title, you need the city of publication, you need the year of publication, you need the edition, whatever it may be. Then you need the publisher's name. After that, you need to describe the condition. And if you're describing condition, I would tell you that you're better off to be a conservative grader and get comments like, oh, wow, this book was in much better condition than you described it. Thank you very much. We try to grade conservatively. One of the other things that we get asked frequently is what kind of reference books to use? What are you looking for in reference books for the beginner? I always start this comment out. Let's see. Yes, there's enough time. I always start this discussion out with the first thought that if you're in the rare book business and you're a billionaire, get ready to become a millionaire. But if you're in the business on a budget, I'm being serious. Okay, this book. Okay. I have used this book for 10 years, right? It's always sitting behind me. There's other copies around the house, but this one actually I've shown this a few times. It has an actual letter by Alan and Patricia Ahern in it to an editor.
Steve,
But
for the
yes.
radio audience, why don't you name the title and what it is?
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah.
Because they're
I know.
the radio audience is blind.
Yeah, I know. This is called a collected books, a guide to values. Okay, and what I'm using is the 1998 edition. It doesn't matter what edition you have. Get the 98 or up. If you look for it, it's by Patricia and Alan Ahern, and it's called Collected Books, a Guide to Values. It's a compendium of information. While the prices aren't relevant today, they're very old prices, all the information, the bibliographic information is correct. I mean, obviously, like anybody else that wrote a 15,000 item price guide in a book, occasionally they made some errors, but, nothing major. So it's a great one-stop reference book. I'll tell you more about it when we come back from these commercial words.
Now, here's Steve the Bookman Eisenstein.
Welcome back, book lovers. Take out something to write with, take out something to write on, copy down a couple of phone numbers. If you want to talk to us right now, it's 888 575 4394. That's 888 575 4394. And I'll give you a reason to call. We have a great rare book prize for you if you can answer today's trivia contest question. What do Thor and Tarzan have very much in common? What do Thor and Tarzan have very much in common? It's an obvious answer if you know it. Speaking of obvious and the unobvious, okay? If you're ever in a situation where you can't think of a gift to give to somebody, think about this. For the person that has everything, give them a certificate for, or arrange for it for them to have it appraised. VMS, valuemystuff.com. Valuemystuff.com is a company that does just that. It does books, it does anything from A to Z, antiquities, firearms, fishing rods, lures, anything like that. Ceramics, pottery, art, whatever it might be. And it makes a fun gift. That's valuemystuff.com. You can get a multiple appraisal package. Contact them online. VMS.com. ValueMyStuff, one word.com. And if you want to reach us off air, if you're catching this um, on one of our various replays, you can reach us off air. It's a landline, no texts, 305 868 5515. That's 305 868 5515. So we were talking about reference books. And let me go back to where I started it from. And the book is Patricia and Alan Ahern's A Guide to Collected Values. It's a one-stop shop book for the beginner. It's got a description of about 15,000 books and what you need to identify the first edition of them, or later editions in most cases. It's got a bibliography that you could envy if you could ever put it together. And we'll talk more about bibliographies in a minute or so. It's got a glossary of terms, and it's got a good discussion in the beginning about, the goings on in the book world and grading and organizations to join and so on. So it's the great one-stop shop book for a beginner that wants all that information. Um, that's Ahern's. Another book that you want is a book that teaches you how to identify publishers' codes that identify their first printings of a book. Prior to 1929, there was no system where publishers identified their first edition. Somehow, like a light switch, literally like a light switch, in 1929, all the publishers got together and came up with different methods to identify their first editions. It's really too bad that they didn't talk to Henry Ford and standardized and streamline the process. But then again, if they did, these books wouldn't be around. So who knows? But it's, for example, if you have books by Scribner after 1929, the word first edition has to appear in it on the back of the title page. If you have a book by Scribner's, in parentheses, the letter A has to appear somewhere around the copyright statement. And while most of these things are in the front of the book, there's another publisher. Oh God, I blanked on the name. Wanda Gagg's Cats is the title. Appleton. Thank you very much. Okay, Appleton. I was thanking myself. If you have books published by Appleton Century, let's say in the 1920s or so, a little earlier, a little later, no, I'm sorry, 1929, actually before 1929, um, what you want to do is look on the last page of the book, last printed page. You will see somewhere a tiny parentheses, probably in the bottom right corner, and there'll be a number in that parentheses. And whatever that number is, that's the edition that you have. And it was why I suddenly had that picture, that yellow dust jacket. If you know the book, this is how the book dealer's brain works, on full display here. Um, it was that yellow dust jacket that triggered me off to Appleton Century. And why did it stand out so much? Because it was the first time I ever found um, a Wanda Gag book, and they were in sturdy dust jackets. That was a well-made dust jacket. And of course, it had the number 21 in the parentheses, so I didn't have the first edition, but lesson learned. So you need a book like Zempel's or Boutel's, or Tannen on how to identify different first editions. Boutel's, Tannen, well, let me say it this way: Zempel, Tannen, and others are well known. Boutel should be well known, but they were one of the first. I actually have multiple copies of that book, and I think one or two have jackets that are. Um, they have publishers in them that might not have made it to some of the newer books, is what I'm trying to bring out. And then, of course, you want the vocabulary books, an ABC of book collecting type book. The newer ones by Berger and Carter are all illustrated. Carter's got the history of having been the first. Um, so you want the vocabulary. You are your vocabulary. Much as I said to you, you have to use the standard format of author, title, etc. You definitely have to use the proper vocabulary. You can bluff in poker, but you can't BS a lot in books. You know, it's very hard to BS in books. Someone always catches you. So, first impressions count. Make yours an informed first impression when you post. Something else you might want to look for, and I encourage what I'm going to tell you now. I practiced what I preached on this for a very long time. When you go to library sales, they discard a lot of bibliographies. Now, most of them, you're never going to have a use for, but you should never say never. So if you see kind of obscure authors, things like that, or actually some, vintage bibliographies on presses or things like that, individual authors, you definitely want to get them, especially if you're getting them at library sale prices. And basically, you want to put them on a shelf that says, hey, I hope I get to use these, because if you didn't have it, you never know when you're going to find that book, and having a good reference section makes it important, and yet makes it much better. Yeah, a lot of this stuff is online, but I am hearing more and more on reports about learning that you don't learn as well from a screen. Students who haven't taken notes in class, and they're literally verbatim typing the teacher, are not learning. So, maybe it's better that you have the book, and you have the book in your hand for, tactile senses that cause more of a memory than, working online. I hope that makes sense. It did when I saw it. I hope it did when you heard it. Um, Another kind of reference book. I'm not telling you to go out and find the whole run of them. We actually have a few of the earliest. And there's a joke that goes with it. Let's see which one I can pull out here easier. Yeah, this is American Book Prices Current, 1897. And I got to tell you that this book, I remember laughing when I heard it, when I read it. There's a limitation page here that says this is the 1897. Um, Only 600 copies have been printed, and the type has been distributed. The year before that, I think it was 462 copies or something, so it must have expanded. But they always say, why did they only print 600? Because back then they probably couldn't sell 601. But I have those just for bragging rights, kind of nostalgia, you know. And I actually did. I found a lot once that was in 1898. The actual lot stayed together, you know, until the 2000 or so when I found it. And I was shocked. I did it on a lark. But what I'm trying to bring out more importantly for you is the newer ones. If you can find some stuff from the 1990s, 2000, I'm not even sure if the hardcover is still being printed anymore. And it's not all on disc, which we'll talk about in a minute. But if you can find some of those 1990s and 2000 American book prices current specifically, you might want to kind of just read them through, looking for odd mentions. You know, you're going to see the last names of every author, you know, who's on that page, you know, up in the corner headings and all that. But there are sections like the autograph and manuscript section or the fine press section. Let's say you wanted to look at descriptions of Kelmscott Press book. You go into the Kelmscott Press section alphabetically in American Book Prices Current. You know, you get to see some interesting things and you get to learn the name of the presses. There's quite a few of them. One of the other things that is often more often used today is the online services that you can subscribe to for auction records. I am a fan of the Rare Book Hub. Okay. The Rare Book Hub has a free newsletter, rarebookhub.com. Rarebookhub.com. You absolutely want to subscribe to their newsletter. Very informative. You get the top 25 lots at auction, recapped every week, articles, reviews, catalogs, and all of that. But what they are selling, and it's an extremely desirable and needed service within the rare book world, dependent on your situation. So let's describe situations that you would need to subscribe to Rare Book Hub. You inherited a shelf full, a house full of books that kind of look like stuff you would see in museums. Well, obviously, you know, you found how you wound up with a lot of nice leather bound books that could be anything from A to Z. You'd want auction prices for those. That's where you would subscribe to the Rare Book Hub. Let's say it was just a bunch of antiquarian books in vellum or original cloth or boards from, you know, different time periods. That's a reason to subscribe to rarebookhub.com. You can get monthly subscriptions. I don't know what they are these days. I have to check. Or a yearly subscription, dependent on your need. But we'll be back after these commercials.
The books in their home library shelves.
Welcome back, book lovers. I completely lost my train of thought. We were talking about Rare Book Hub, American Book Prices, current bibliographies, and I was writing something, completely lost it. Oh wow. Okay. Give me a second here. Take out something to write with, take out something to write on. Copy down our call-in number, 888-575-4394. If you can answer today's trivia contest question, we got a great prize for you. What do Thor and Tarzan have very much in common? And I'll give you a clue. It's in their relationships. Okay. So who's going to be the answer? 888-575-4394. I just got a disturbing phone call. I got to find something to talk about for 10 minutes without thinking about what just happened. We mentioned VMS. Yes, we did. Hold on here. Oh yeah. A little promo on something. September 13th, we are going to be interviewing Donald Diamond. Actually, I knew him as Donnie Silverman. He has written two phenomenal books on his naval career, and I'm Not the Grim Reaper. We're going to be talking about his adventures as an author and what he's done over the years. It's funny because this was a, I was, he was about 5 or 6 years older and one of the big kids in the neighborhood. So it's going to be interesting for us old timers now that we're not as age separated as before. He still looks like me, though. That's what we're going to be talking about. There was something I wanted to throw out and I forgot what it
Hey,
was.
Steve,
Yeah.
please adjust your
Oh,
camera.
yeah, I'm sorry. Steve, yeah, okay. Something just happened that has thrown my game off completely. Guy, am I okay now?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, sorry
Don't
about
answer
that.
the phone during the show.
Yeah, I know. I had no choice. I had no choice on that one. So let's talk about a couple of things. I'm going to kind of walk you through collected books by Patricia and Alan Ahern. One of the things in there is how to use the guide. So to give you an idea what they're talking about, in this particular price guide, they have parameters. So all books listed herein are first editions, first printings of the individual titles, unless otherwise stated. Each of the entries includes sufficient information to allow the reader to identify first editions of a book in hand. The prices are current as of 1997 rather than projections. What we've tried to do is outline how a publisher identifies their first editions and then note exceptions. In other words, if Random House in the 1950s stated first and a Random House title herein does not state first, the entry will include first edition not stated. See, they definitely should have talked to Henry Ford and all done the same thing. They estimate their values to be accurate with plus or minus 20%. Yeah, I can agree with that. And while we're talking about how to identify pricing and such, I got the perfect filler to get me back on track here. Um, how do you establish a price for a book? Generally speaking, what we do is I say as you as a novice, or depending on what the purpose of our more, let's say we have a more experienced eye for it. What are we doing with that book? Is it an appraisal? Is it for resale? How do we go about finding comparative values? The most common places used are AddAll.com, Abe, Via Libre, Biblio. I apologize if I'm leaving anybody else out, but all those major sites. Personally speaking, out of all of those, Addall is probably the best one to use because Addall has all the other ones in there. Maybe not Via Libre. I'm not 100% sure on that. But Addall has everything in one shot. You don't have to keep going to new screens. How do you know if a dealer listing an asking price in Addall is knowledgeable, is in the fair market value range. Well, there's a couple of things. And what do you ask about the prices that you see listed? Well, let's say you see a dealer who has a book priced at $4,500. And then you go further down and you see that another dealer has it at $2,000, and then another dealer has it at 2,200, and another one has it at 18, or so on. How do you sort through all that? Well, almost automatically, unless there's something very special about that $4,500 copy, they're supposed to all be basically the same book, unless there's something very special about that copy. Obviously, the $4,500 price is not the right price. It's an inflated price. So now you go down and you see more of a 18 to 22, maybe a 15, maybe a 12, maybe a 700. Then you start examining condition issues and you see where yours is or isn't in that range. The other thing you might want to look for is, does the dealer belong to any kind of organization? Generally speaking, if a dealer has letters after their name, like if you saw a listing for me, it would say FABA. What does that mean? It means I belong to the Florida Antiquarian Book Dealers Association, and I've been a member vetted by my peers over the years. So if someone's in an association, it simply means they've been vetted by a group of their peers. It doesn't mean that they're any better or worse than anybody else that isn't. It just simply means that you can get a little more confidence out of their listing to make some of your decisions. Another thing you want to ask when you see those prices is, did the dealer sell the book? And if the dealer sold the book, did he sell it at the price that it's listed for? Did the dealer sell it to another dealer at a discount price? Those are things you'll probably never know, but those are the things you want to try and find out when you're looking at comparative pricing. Who's the person whose price you're using? The one thing that's mandatory is your descriptions have to match. The condition has to match. If yours is in better condition, great. If yours is in worse condition, you've got to grade it accordingly. So that's how you successfully approach comparison or comparables in your pricing structures. Um, there is a rhyme and reason to it. Generally speaking, those high prices, if you look up, I had to recently research several art books with lithographs in them. And in each case, there was one dealer who had astronomically high prices above everybody else's. And, you just kind of knew that this was not the way to price the book. Being the highest price might get you seen first in descending pricing order, which is the way we get our prices, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to sell the book. And I'll give you another example of something. If if you have greed in you, I have seen half a dozen uh, dealers go out of business or have their reputations severely damaged because they gouged. They got away with it for a while, but eventually time catches up with you. Your clients become aware, and you suffer the consequences for it. I think your reputation in this business is probably the most important thing in the world, and you have to treat that accordingly in every aspect of it. So anyway, we've got a couple of things going on. Next week is the second Saturday. Let me make sure of that. First, oh, wait a minute. Well, I think Max is going to be. Max is probably going to. Max, I'll get the message to you if Max can do it. I forgot.
That's the first Saturday next week.
Yeah, I know. I see that. Well, Donnie's going to be on. So, well, Max is only on for an hour, so it'll work out fine. You know. Yeah. Oh, yeah. The answer to the trivia contest question. You should all be ashamed of yourself. Jane. They both have girlfriends named Jane. Okay. I'm waiting for some studio laughter there. Anyway, I hope you all have a great. Thank you very much. Canned laughter, please. I hope you all have a great weekend.
You
If
still
you're
got
out,
3 minutes, Steve.
oh, oh, right, we got to run to the top. Oh my God, somebody get me out of the dental chair,
Well,
please. You go ahead.
well, today's the beginning of college game day. Boy, we're looking forward to it over here.
Well, okay, you have a great sports program on tomorrow, T.
Yep, Sports Talk with T tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock.
And to give us a little profile of T. I hear she's really knocking them dead.
Yeah, just most knowledgeable person about hockey that I know, including some of the coaches. I really think she could be a general manager for a hockey team without a doubt. But anyway, yeah, that and car racing, the Formula One racing will be on. Of course, we're covering all the big NFL stories that have happened this week. A big trade with Micah Parsons going to Green Bay Packers from the Dallas Cowboys. That's just tore up the world. That was like, holy crap! You thought the Earth was going to stand still.
You're talking to somebody that's never put a sports game on of his own volition.
Oh,
No, it's
well,
true.
oh,
It's true.
I guess you'll be tuning in then tomorrow.
Yeah, I know. No, I won't. I mean, it's a great show. I mean, I hear the promos, but I have never been a spectator. I'll play anything. I was an entertainment director. I was a camp director. I mean, I remember it has been so long. The last time I played softball, I hit the thing into the next campground. I mean, it was a high outside pitch, my favorite kind. And it just brought back a memory. Anyway, still got 2 more minutes in the chair, huh?
And then we're also, of course, college football starting this weekend, and the baseball season's winding down. We're trying to see who's going to end up in the playoffs. Our Rays over here are not looking so good. Your Marlins are not looking so good over there. Yankees, who is really my all-time favorite team since I was a little kid, and they're starting to come on. We'll see if they make it in the playoffs. We'll see.
Let me know if you get any inside plays or any White Sox scandals coming up. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're about at that moment.
We got about 20 seconds left.
Yeah, well, happy book sales and buys to you, and we will see you all next weekend. Thanks definitely for the last 6 minutes, Captain Huck. We love you guys.
All right.
I am about to detach from the chair and take care of things.
There you go.
Have a good day, y'all. Ciao, ciao.